And a microphone is coming to you. And I will repeat the question.
Okay, this is for Dr. Hall. How would your maps change if you included refined products in those diagrams? Is that a substantial addition, or is that sort of the same picture?
So the question is, how would the maps change that Dr. Hall showed if they include refined products?
Actually, that's a really interesting question. Can you hear me? No. Can you hear me now? Now? Still not?
Turning it up. Better?
Is it better?
Hold it like this one.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, your question's a really great one. See, there's a refined products network as well. Crude oil moves in one set of pipelines, and refined products move in a completely different set of pipelines. The reason for that is that crude oil is dirty. You know, it's got stuff in it. It's grime, sand, all that stuff, because it's come out of the ground or out of a crude oil tanker. It would contaminate gasoline or anything like that. So there is a very similar, in fact I even have a picture of it, the refined products network for our region, and it looks very similar, except there are many more smaller diameter pipelines. So that's actually a separate issue. Does that answer your question?
We have a question online, or any other questions from the audience? And there's someone in the back. We have 1 and 2. Tom?
Hi, my name is Shelley Catherine. I'm actually down here from Montreal. No, I don't sound like I have a French accent. I'm originally from Syracuse, New York, but lived there for 22 years. My question, I have a question in a small, tiny little precision for Dr. Hull. Dr. Hull, I'm very interested to know, you mentioned 200,000 barrels a day going from Montreal to Quebec City by water on the 2 Panamax. I'm wondering where your figure comes from.
So the question to Dr. Hall. Can you repeat the question, Dr. Hall?
Yeah, you want to know where the 200,000 figure came from?
Yes.
It's just an approximate. You see, line 9, I believe, has a capacity of over 300,000 barrels a day.
Yes.
And I did an extrapolation as to what it appeared that Suncor might take at Montreal, which would leave the rest to go to Valero or to other places. So it was purely an approximation. It's not an actual solid number.
And for those,
It's a guess.
and for those of you online, they're describing how he got his calculations from Montreal,
Right.
Toronto and Montreal.
And see, also, it's one of those things that
Okay.
it will change month to month. So
Okay, thank you very much. And if I can make my little precision, I think you mentioned that there wasn't any opposition when that went through. There was a lot of opposition for line 9.
For line 9, yes.
Of course, you're right. I think it was less well known that it stops in Montreal and goes on to a ship. And I think you're exactly right about that. Not a lot of opposition in terms of the water leg of that trip, although there was some, but certainly lots and lots of opposition to line 9, which is why I think Energy East, it doesn't bode well for going through with respect to human. Thank you very much.
Well,
This is
actually,
fantastic.
Line 9 is a very interesting story. When it was built in the early 70s, it was built to go to Montreal,
Yes.
related to the Arab oil crisis. And then some years later, it was reversed to come the other way, and now it's reversed going back. And there was a lot of environmental opposition to it, absolutely.
Thank you. It was a great presentation.
And we have a question over here, and then you're going to switch back to the back. And Laura Sertera again.
Hello, my question goes to Jerome. I have the same first name than you, so it's about the response. In Canada, we have organizations that are responsible of the response, not just the Coast Guard. ECRC is there for the Great Lakes region. And I was wondering, is there an equivalent in the States, or is it all under the umbrella of the Coast Guard? And if there is that difference, do you see an advantage or disadvantage with having in Canada organizations responsible for the response plus the government versus something else in the US?
Okay, so that's a great question. It's asking, is the regime for in Canada and the US the same for how response corporations are managed under the law? So in both countries, it's a principle of the responsible party is responsible for the costs of the cleanup of a spill. How that equates to, so in the US, typically a responsible party, if it's a facility or a vessel owner or whoever is the responsible party, is typically under their facility or vessel response plan going to identify a oil spill removal organization. So that could be anybody. There's hundreds of them in this region. If an RP is not able to be identified, a responsible party, or is not able to manage a response, and it is federalized under the U.S., then the Coast Guard or EPA would tap into Oil Spill Liability Trust Fund, hire contractors, but it's not one. So in Canada, ECRC is called the only game in town, but it's a different type of system. So either way, the responsible party is going to be on the hook, but the way the contractors are managed is different between the two countries, if that makes sense.
We have a question online.
It's for Dr. Hull. Can you please elaborate on the large volume of oil that moves through Chicago?
Please elaborate on the large volume of oil that moves through Chicago, Dr. Hall.
Well, his other comment, in my slide, there was a phrase, Chicago is choke point USA. Chicago is very well known as a very congested rail hub. I think that's the question, pretty much, is with regard to rail.
It just says, elaborate on the point you were making about Chicago and the large volume of oil that moves through there. So that's what the...
Okay, I assume that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of pipeline oil moves through there as well. But with regard to rail, Chicago is well known as being highly congested, and it's been that way for many years, and probably will be. Any increase in rail, one would have to look at the congestion and what sorts of problems that's going to create in the Chicago area. The other point I was trying to make with rail was that even Alberta crude oil, the access to the Alberta crude oil, the big is going to come to the U.S. Gulf Coast. This is the Canadian National Railroad. The Canadian National Railroad from Alberta goes straight to Chicago and then slides down the state of Illinois, and then down along the Mississippi River to the Gulf Coast. So as bitumen moves in rail, it will more than likely be moving through Chicago as well. Now, as far as pipelines go, it's sort of the same thing. The Alberta crude oil, as you would have noticed from that slide, does typically come down through the Chicago area, and there are expansion plans that have been looked at, like expanding Line 3 as a way of moving more crude oil.
She said that did answer the question.
So then I think we have a question in the back.
Is that you? Do you have a question?
It was. I can ask her.
You can speak in the mic.
Jerry, this is for Jerry. I'm familiar with some Coast Guard efforts, but I thought it'd be nice to share. There's a lot of concern about oil release in the hard winter time and ice recovery. Can you maybe detail what you've been doing with Kurt Hansen and your research facility out there in New Jersey?
Thanks, Matt. That's almost a planted question, which it wasn't. Okay, thank you. So the question is with regard to response to oil in ice and winter conditions. So specifically, one of the target areas has been the Straits of Mackinac. But just in general, there's been a lot of questions about the ability to respond to oil spills in ice. As Matt was mentioning, the Coast Guard's Research and Development Center, which is based in New London, Connecticut, has a specialist that's been working this topic. There's been 3 installments of what we call oil and ice studies, which were done in the Straits of Mackinac. And what those did was basically bring in government and commercial capabilities into the Straits and look at a variety of environments, weather conditions, some available technologies, using some surrogates for oil and testing recovery, decontaminations, remote sensing, trying to define oil underneath ice or underwater. So all three of those reports are available online. And if you remember in my presentation, I flashed the Federal On-Scene Coordinator's Guide to Oil and Ice. So that is the product that is the end result of those three studies. In kind of the really short version, there's a lot in those, but sometimes I hear that people say, well, there's no way to recover oil and ice. Well, there are, and I think especially ECRC and among others, I'll tell you, they've done a lot of that out in Canada. So there are certain tactics. So for example, on hard ice, you can slot the ice and have the oil come up and then skim it that way. You can hurt it if it's through broken ice using fire hoses and things like that. You can burn it. There's a lot of things you can do. So what these studies have done is basically show us some of the tactics that are available to be used. Now what that doesn't do is it's still in every individual situation, the federal on-scene coordinator will have to approve, and the regional response teams have to approve with those tactics. So for example, nobody's going to burn oil on the Great Lakes without there being a lot of discussion from the states, the natural resource trustees, and all things like that, for example. But there are tactics that are available to federal on-scene coordinator to extract oil out of ice-laden waters, as we say. They're not easy and they're not foolproof, and again, strong winds and things like that make it difficult. But the tactics are there, and they are available for the FOSC to use. So, thank you.
So we have one question here, we have there, 5 questions here. Oh, one was okay.
I have a response, not a question. To the oil issue. Right.
You have to talk to them like people can see.
Take the next question.
Take the next question. Go ahead.
My question is for Lieutenant Joy. I was wondering how much interaction do you have with the federal on-scene coordinators for the pre-planning, so the contingency planning or ACPs, if you ever discuss specific water pathways and how you would respond to that?
So I guess the question is how much direct interaction do I have with the on-scene coordinators prior to a spill? Generally, it's really limited, the amount of time I actually spent directly with the on-scene coordinators. The contingency planning kind of handles that. They have geographic response strategies that they develop that are in our IRMA application and other things that would kind of guide spill response. So generally, the on-scene coordinators kind of looking at it from above, and the people on the ground kind of have a little bit more information, so they would. Sure, and I'll pass this off to Jerry as well.
I'm gonna add on here now because there is one thing you should know. So Michael just arrived to us, this summer, so he's brand new to the job. So I think number one, he's done a fantastic job assimilating all this information. It's a very complex thing. So, number one, we're glad to have him because we're looking forward to having him. The SSC also gets to go to all our RT, our regional response team meetings, which are sort of the umbrella over all the area committees. So that's one of the things that we do is we engage really with both Michael and Steve Lehman from the Boston area, who's also one of our representatives to RT. So again, it's not so much the specific working with the FOSC, but there is a lot of engagement in especially tactics. So for example, one of the things that we're looking at, the question has come up about in situ burning of oil on fresh water. So there's been a lot of research and a lot of actual experience with doing in situ burning on salt water. Very little of it has been done on fresh water. So we've been working through, we have a protocol in Region 5 on how we're going to do that. It involves polling the natural resource trustees, the scientific support coordinators, the state, water and air, environmental people, discussing with the FOC what's potentially going to be done, what the impacts are of that. So we have a protocol how we're going to handle it, but the bottom line is there's not a lot of R&D that's been done in freshwater burns. So that's just an example where the SSCs and NOAA in particular have been just very critical to creating these protocols and how we're going to ask the questions, how are we going to proceed. So, we're really joined at the hip here in our same building, and we spend a lot of time working with the SSC. You really can't do it without them.
I'm going to take 2 more quick questions. There's one online and one in the audience. Kathy?
I'm Catherine Buckner from the Council for Atlas Industries. My question is for Dr. Graziano. And I'm wondering whether, in your preliminary analysis, you mentioned that the economic activity around crude oil transportation includes the petroleum refining sector and pipeline activity. And I'm wondering, and I apologize if I missed this in your presentation, but is that it? Or is there additional economic activity in the region around this material, perhaps incorporating into a product or using this material to help production process or something like that, additional refining perhaps?
And please repeat the question.
Yes. So the question was whether or not we consider additional industries other than pipeline transportation and refineries in our analysis. The answer is yes and no. Yes, we also included other modes of transportation in the 6 NAICS codes, 6 digits for the United States. There is actually one that is specific to Great Lakes freight transportation, not very big. Other include long distance railroads and so forth. They are not specific, of course, they don't say necessarily whether or not oil or the share of oil in the total revenues and sales and so forth. In terms of including refined products, we stopped and we didn't do that because we focus on the crude oil. Certainly that's always sort of a balance and a decision in economic impact analysis. How far do I go? The Great Lakes region has a strong chemical manufacturing industry. And it showed that the data for that is actually very poorly suited to build pipelines, for instance. And so from a regional perspective, we're balancing. But no, we didn't include the products once refined and whatnot.
Okay, so then one quick question and then from online and then we'll have to break.
Okay. What can politicians, businesses, and voters do to encourage the use of the St. Lawrence Seaway to move crude oil and encourage Great Lakes area refineries to increase capacity? Are there limitations or dangers to this? Just a little question.
Just a little question. And we need to, someone repeat that. It came from online. So does anyone want to take that? So the question was what can be done to increase the transportation? Oh, is that connected though?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
What can politicians, businesses, and voters do to encourage the use of the St. Lawrence Seaway to move crude oil and to encourage Great Lakes area refineries to increase capacity? Are there limitations and dangers?
Which is the topic of this important degree. I'll try to give a crack at that. I will answer with a question, because I'm an academic, so you're not going to get a straight answer. But the counter question would be, is it worth your while? And I'm not opposing movement of crude oil necessarily. Is it worth your while in terms of the Great Lake region? Because we found from the data we had that most of the jobs are not for manufacturing pipelines and so forth. They're going to impact the region. They're going to happen in Oklahoma, Texas, states that are better suited, longer history. Pipelines don't create jobs when it comes to operate the pipeline. Railways necessitate a lot of investments. So, we don't have infinite amount of money. So, it depends. Do you want to?
Okay, and on that note, go ahead.
I'd like to take a shot at it too. There are a number of things. Like first of all, from the map you folks saw of the refineries, there's so many of those refineries that are actually on the Great Lakes. The Whiting refinery in Chicago was on the Great Lakes. They got barge docks. Same with many of the refineries. A lot of them were built with the purpose of having water access. In the early days, when the Canadian oil was first discovered, the first pipeline was built to Superior. And for 10 years, people shipped crude oil to Great Lakes refineries. So it's happened before in the past. There were issues with it. First of all, the growing pipeline industry took the business away from water. So it ended. There is no crude oil moving on the Great Lakes at all. There's a little bit of refined products, but no crude oil. One of the other issues with moving crude oil on the Great Lakes is seasonality. The thing freezes. And even if it doesn't freeze, you still have to shut the locks for them for a few months every year. So it's not year-round business. So while you could conceivably move crude oil on the Great Lakes, it would be a real challenge to figure out how to do it, beyond the environmental issues and stuff.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank our panel. For those of you in the audience who had additional questions, I'm sure these gentlemen will be around for the next couple of days, and I would encourage you to catch them out in the hallway. We're going to have a short break. Please try